Oh, that one, yeah. Like one of the first ones.
Yeah, long ass time ago.
It was a long ass
You
time
were like,
ago.
nope, fuck that.
Well, I met her in school, right? And then we went to her house one time, but she lived like there's the city center, and then you have several valleys that come off of it, and so it's all farmland out there. And so when I go there, she was telling like eventually after knowing her for a while and I guess grinding reputation,
That's
as a
what you
reward
call
for
it.
hitting exalted, she tells me about the story or a fantasy that she had about getting fucked by her dog and getting fucked by horses and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't,
It
I'm out.
wasn't a fantasy.
It's not a good faction reward right there. Learning about getting fucked by a dog.
Yeah, and her dog, I met her dog. I don't know what kind of dog it was, but it was very like shaggy and kind of ugly looking, and but was a big dog, like way like you could probably, if you were 10 years old, you could ride it around as a mount, you know.
She did.
You gotta be
Fucking mount.
you gotta be
Yeah.
honest here. Did you try and compare your dick to the size of the dog's dick?
No, I didn't. It was like it was winter or something. It was cold.
Drink.
Her dad,
Hold on, you
their
met her
house
next
was like,
to Austin? That's what it was.
she was like a redneck version of like Canadian redneck. Like her family, they all lived on trailers on this property, but the dad did try to make like a T out of two trailers, but he doesn't know how to like, the first thing about carpentry or anything. So when I was in her room trying to sleep, I could see outside because the windowsill doesn't like properly make it to the wall or something. I'm looking outside and it's like fucking cold in here. And there was a bunch of other issues too. And I was like, so after all that, after spending like a weekend there with their fucking crazy family, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I told y'all a
Wasn't
story
the end
about
of the
that one girl I
world.
met.
I still talk to her on Facebook occasionally, but it's like, oh yeah, she
gained,
used
like,
to be
fucking
kind of
300
appealing.
pounds, right?
Like she was
Yeah.
attractive, and then holy shit, like after,
I know, you sent me another picture like 5 years later. I was like, holy fuck, dude, what happened?
Good luck with your
yeah, no, she's just like, and also she got in a car accident and got her feet and legs
That's what
below her knee got crushed. So she's had like 17 surgeries to pin all the bones back together and shit. Oh, awful. She can kind of walk now, but it's like she can't really walk either because she's overweight. So she's gotta like lose weight. Yeah. And then so we went to the pool.
That record was
walk,
like massive
yeah.
fat and bones.
Well, it looks her feet look weird now because they had to remove the layer of fat to get at the bone. So you have like it looks like she's wearing flesh socks almost.
Oh,
Uggs.
my God.
Look at its ankle, dude. Fucking coffee cans for ankles.
Yeah. But it's like because the skin was cut out and like replaced and stuff. Yeah. She said they literally had to like skin her legs and then put the fucking it back on like a boot later.
God damn, what are we doing, guys? You just gotta start shooting people when they get in that bad of shape. It's like a horse. Put it down. Don't skin the skin off of their fucking fat feet and put it back on. It's not worth it. It's a fat shit.
Like a level 0 human.
Like in her
else
heyday,
nonsense.
she gave like good
gotta
blowjobs and
say
stuff,
enough.
at least for like a first girlfriend or
Like, yeah,
whatever.
they used to just like put cookies on top of her and then like give it
Yeah.
to her and then eat as well.
Yeah,
It's
so
just
like
sitting on
she
her
used to
back.
work at 7-Eleven, right? And I'd go in there and chat with her, and at the end of her shift, this is like it only happened maybe 3 or 4 times, right? But it was useful. I realized I could use food to encourage sex, so I was like using that.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I ended up buying some donuts or something, and then used that in like foreplay, and it worked, and it worked again, and it worked again, and so forth. It was like, yeah, it was like, what's your favorite candy, or what do you want to try tonight, or something like that.
So, imagine he's talking about being a pedophile. At some point, I realized candy would lure these kids into my van. I figured it'd be a great way to get them.
I think you'd have a.
It's really
Well,
similar.
it seems to work on overweight females as well.
You'd have a better story to tell if you had used dogs.
Oh man, I've eaten dog treats before, and they're like,
I wouldn't talk
Not-
about you eat them.
no, they're not that bad. Some are really chalky though. I don't know how they sell these as being marketable towards like bacon or something. They don't taste like
Probably
bacon.
got bones
Some
in
are
it.
really chalky.
Bone
Like, how
powder.
many have you tried?
Yeah, that's all I could think of. Is what the fuck?
There's different brands, right? So
The chalk
You
is
gotta
probably
try
bone powder.
different
Yeah,
brands.
just
Try the
that's
different
true.
breads, obviously.
Do you go to PetSmart and get like the samples?
well, for instance, I grew up on a farm, so my parents would always buy different
You're asking
things
for a
for the dogs
sample?
to try.
Where's your dog, sir?
Let me
What
try
the-
that one first.
Just eat it right.
Yeah, like
Man, you must really love dogs to make sure that they will enjoy their food before they get.
well, sometimes you get an issue where the dog would eat a treat and then throw up or.
So you
And
gotta
it's
try
Well,
that
you should
one
test
too.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
let me taste it, see if it tastes horrible. It's like, because you don't want to give a bad treat to another dog, you know?
Yeah, rather you eat it.
Well,
Sugar.
I think it was like before memes were memes, before it became a term. If you go back in my childhood, I was the first son. So I essentially was the test driver for fucking everything. And like, you know, like whenever mom wanted me to try some new healthy snack, or I remember it was like algae bars or some crap that she made me eat. It was horrible tasting.
So,
Fucking
like, let's
awesome.
not take any risk with our non-crazy son that's not fucked up. Let's give it to our retarded kid
Yeah.
first. If he
Just
dies
get
of it.
Austin to do everything that,
coal mine.
you know, just do the test rounds, you know. And that's what's kind of shit. I think I ended up having to go like some therapy for that, you know, because like
Could
I
sue
felt
you.
very like resented by my family in that
Just
situation.
push it all down.
Stay inquisitive.
So how does that make
It was,
you feel?
Just emotions.
but it's funny though. It's like I feel like my whole life has been a bit of series of fuck ups that somehow worked out. You know.
That's just hilarious. My parents didn't want the dogs to get sick.
Are we
So-
supposed to feel bad? I feel kind of bad that you had to eat dog treats as a kid.
I don't think he had to.
He chose to. That's a life he
Because
chose.
I had, at that point in my life, I had autism, but I have autism now, but it's not as bad as it used to be because like it went through like speech therapy and all that stuff, right? Back then, I really didn't know any better. Like my parents really didn't keep an eye on me. I'd like get into all sorts of stuff. I remember when I was a baby, my mom would tell a story to friends and think it's funny that she found like cigarette butts in my diaper, meaning that I was eating cigarette butts at one point. So it was like, you know, just let Austin like wander off. I remember they had to call in because I got lost in the woods one time. Calling in search and rescue, come get me. And I had like no idea. I ended up just like falling asleep in the woods. Oh, this looks like a good place to lay down, and it was next to the trail, and no one saw me there.
How does a cigarette butt survive stomach acid? It seems like it's paper, so it should.
I mean, they're not biodegradable. So.
Like fiberglass or something? Asbestos.
Just to think about it, you smoke like it's the cigarette butts are usually got the filter on. Depends what brand you get. Assuming my parents were probably smoking the ones with the
Imports.
plastic filters.
They were smoking Newports.
Probably.
My dad used
Yeah.
to you'd smoke Cools.
Oh, dude,
I was a
4
kid.
strength, 4 stam leather belt.
But I did a lot of stupid shit as a kid, too. But I'm like, I feel like you take the normal, like a normal out, and how many stupid things will they do if not supervised? And then you multiply that by like whatever autism is, like add autism, like add on right there. Okay, this autism
It's like
is a
the crit
it's a
strike
debuff.
multiplier. It's
Well,
a crit
debuff,
strike
right?
multiplier.
Like,
Gonna
yeah,
factor it in. do the
basically a
math.
debuff. Unless like you have a talent tree in a sense where it's like, you know, it's like you roll a character. How's it
You're
work?
not saying what
You
the
roll a
item
piece of
is.
gear and you're looking for an attribute. You're also looking for something else.
Tell them your theory about your
It's-
PoE character you made super dumb.
Yeah.
Or he's super strong because you took a point off of his intellect and like
All intellect was 0. All
it's like
intellect.
that's how we come up with like that's what retard strength is. It's like you
Yeah, I
sacrificed
named
an
my
intellect
character
point to
Alpha
have an
Tard.
extra strength point.
Yeah. Hilarious. like I like looking at the world through a lens of being like a video in a sense. You can kind of like, especially when I was playing Fallout 4, me and T2 were playing Fallout 4 like really hardcore and doing settlements. I started noticing shit around it was like piles of trash, and I'm like, I can utilize this. And, you know, I gotta get. I'm like, and then T2 starts going around like stealing bricks and shit.
Hey, let's not talk about us on the stream, guys.
It wasn't. It was just reusing bricks.
Salvaged some
Okay.
bricks.
Well,
No
when I
one
think,
uses them.
I mean, like,
Junk dump. So
you go to the dump. Like,
He was
I
just taking them off people's houses. It's not that big of a deal.
I'll say this opening. I've stolen lots of things. Okay.
Stop throwing away. The fucking Mounties.
When I was a kid, I remember being in stores and just like picking up airplanes and putting them in my mouth or something. And my mom has no idea that I'd put a toy in my mouth and walk out of the store, spit the toy out, and you're like, aha, I have a toy now. What are you gonna do about it? It's in my mouth.
Put it up your butt. I won't even take it back.
No one's
Spin
gonna
your ass.
search a child's mouth.
That's like some Hannibal Lecter type stuff. What's he put the handcuff key in his mouth?
Figuring stuff out. Man. Like, there's ways to hack. People that get those YouTube channels about life hacks, and it's always about cooking or something. No, what about mental life hacks? Like, for instance, as a kid, we had a
Just walk into
cafeteria.
store and steal shit. Life hacking.
Yeah,
Life.
but it's a life hack to make your life easier. I'm not necessarily. I was doing it as like young kid, right? I don't need a toy as an adult, so I wouldn't do that. But you could replace the toy with like money.
With like money,
Or-
exactly. Walk into
Yeah,
a bank
exactly.
with an AK-47.
You're gonna give me everything you got.
Life hack.
Oh my god.
It's
Yeah, but you
easier
gotta
to
do
work
it in a way that
$10
it
an
doesn't
hour or
interrupt
steal
anyone
$10
else's
worth of
life. It's a
something.
neutral
Yeah.
life hack. It doesn't like, as long as you don't get caught, it's a neutral. But like for instance, I would go to the cafeteria, and the lady would be like, you know, $2 for a cookie or whatever. But when she's not looking, I just take $2 of change worth out of her tip jar and then fucking give it to her, and then here you go.
That's like these dungeons. There's everything you need to kill a dragon is in the dungeon.
Exactly. And school was like that too.
How are your maps?
Tests and like, you know, all sorts of stuff. Just because people would like, if I'm gonna be labeled a retard by the system, then fuck, I'll play it up, and I'll be like,
Stay
Certified retarded guys. He can say this. So
exactly. So I
Don't
just
get
ended up,
offended.
and then I started looking at it, what's available for people, and it's like, and especially for someone who's an adult, I've got free camping, free parking in some cities. Like there's like an eco tax or something if I'm retarded and somehow I'm able to drive a eco-friendly car, I get a tax-free thing. Where it's like, how does that work? Okay, but then it's like, because even though I'm high functional and able to live on my own, I feel like most people are just scraping by and are kind of just also low functional, but they're not on any welfare like me. Yet they can do all these things and go to work and pay their taxes and stuff, but somehow I'm like, it's a good thing to be, like, the government in my country's made it a good thing to be retarded. I feel like it's a conspiracy that, like, these parents are purposely having retarded children and moving to these areas that have these benefits so that they can leech off their children and reap the benefits the rest of their lives.
That's definitely a
That's
thing.
what it feels like, because I'll go to these groups and these people, like,
How are your
a lot of
maps?
them are still high functioning enough, but their parents control their entire lives. They're like shackled to their
maps be
parents. So
merciful?
even though they're not actually retarded, they're incapable of like knowing that they're being duped.
It's like
I'll
when I
see
worked
it.
in a convenience store, there was a kid that had that deformed leg, couldn't walk right, and his parents were getting government assistance, and they could have got his leg fixed, but then they wouldn't have got the government assistance anymore, so they just let it stay fucked
Yeah.
up.
Just to kind of see my insight, like of going into the world's really fucked up everywhere. It's not fair, and if you want to you can either work hard or you can just take
Hardly work.
advantage of loopholes. You know, and that's what I do because I'm lazy.
Working hard or hard to work.
What T2 if you were no longer able to do your current job, that occupation, for
It'd be pretty
instance.
hard. I'd have to be pretty fucked up. Getting
Yeah,
checks.
exactly. Like, if for some reason you got fired and you were like banned from the profession or something, you'd probably find something to. It would completely change your entire lifestyle.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It would
Have to rely on Twitch stream.
exactly. Most people are in that state though. Like, if you end up getting like, that's why I don't understand why people continue to rebuild the houses in a cane area or something. And I'm like, dude, fucking, you're retarded. Like, hey, classified retard here. I'm not gonna go live in an area in which constant Hurricane Alley stuff happens.
Or on a cliff where waves are constantly eroding it, and it's just any few years from now it's going to fall out.
Yeah. Like, I feel like one day I'll be an old man and I'll just be sitting around and it's gonna be like, how's the word? I'm gonna be a grumpy old man because everything sucks. Like, everyone is just devolved into into ridiculousness. Gonna have taxes on fucking everything. I guess it's fine because then I don't really have to pay taxes. Well, I get refunded.
Oh, dude, 4 strength, 4 stam leather belt.
I don't imagine I'll live to be like super old.
The thing is, for
but-
me, if I'm a leech on society, I want wealth so I continue to survive. I don't want society to implode with all these like millennials who
They only give you like $900 a month, so
900 and wait, is it
You still work,
48?
too,
It might be
so-
higher. Oh, and then I also get money from my job.
you're disabled because of problems at birth rather than like I'm too fat to work.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy to work. You know, it's like actually you have problems.
Like, I have problems, yeah. Some
They
days,
misdiagnosed you, sure, or some of those shit. Like
probably.
Crohn's,
I do have
Crohn's.
brain damage. I know that. To what extent
Crohn's that
or
you had?
what issues. People say like, and nowadays too, it's like people tell me, oh, when I go to practitioners or the doctor or whatever it might be, maybe reviewing something or trying to apply for something, they're like, they'll say that I have autism or they'll say you have Asperger's or whatever, and then sometimes people have to double check, and then, but then other doctors will be like, oh, you're grandfathered in, but they always get back to the same thing. They'll like check the system, and the system will say I'm not eligible for something, and I'm like, well, check it again and check it with this code. Like, I have to make sure I get the certain code. It's like a from
Yeah,
the doctor,
retard code?
like
Where'd that come from?
Need a map?
like so for instance, it's like a
May your maps be merciful.
007 on retard.
like a sign off, you know, like a sign off. So that you go to the doctor and they're like they waiver you having thing. Right? Yeah, retard code basically. Oh, you're retarded, so covered. But most places where I go to, let's say I haven't been to like a store before and I go in there, they'll be like, oh, that'll be like $600, please. You know, like, oh no, I have
Retard
now
code.
I've just, you know, I'll be like, oh, go back in your code and type this in or call my doctor. Nowadays, I just have it in my like wallet. So I just give it to them like initially. I'm like, oh yeah, before you do anything, punch this code in. And then I don't have those issues anymore. But yeah, so I get like, because I don't know how it works. It's just technically like, I don't know how they manage to cover it because technically a
People's
steroid,
taxes.
I guess. Yeah. 'Cause I gotta take testosterone every day.
Like
And,
blind filter.
and that's like, for a month's supply is like $600 or something like that. It's expensive. So I'm glad I got my code. Otherwise, I'm pretty fucked.
It's late here, guys. I'm gonna head off. I'll see you later.
Later, man.
Oh wait,
See ya.
Bob, before you go,
Mhm.
you play any Dark Souls or anything, or
Yeah, I play Dark Souls.
You what do you? I know you're tired, but
This
what
seems
is
real
your
important.
understanding?
I
One,
beat.
two, three, or do you play any PvP, or is it?
No, I don't do PvP, but I played 1 and 2. I didn't beat 3 though.
Okay.
Are you into it?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the series.
You do a lot of PvP stuff?
Yeah, I've got some videos on my YouTube. I'll share it
Yeah,
later.
link me something. I'll check it out later. Yeah, I just did single player stuff. I'll stream it and get my ass kicked for like 4 hours with each boss.
It's gotten better. When I first started off, I had panic attacks while fighting certain bosses, but then like, um, I've gotten better at the game.
Yeah, I used to really suck too.
It's like the reason I don't know. Some people are more stressed than others, but some of those bosses are unanimously like really fucking hard. So spent like a long time.
Yeah,
Getting
I
killed
felt
and then
like I
run
wanted
back.
to break my fucking computer, and I sat there for 4 hours, 6 hours, and eventually I beat it while I'm streaming, and people would be so like relieved to finally see me beat it. They'd send me money. Like I used to get like $60 just for beating a boss.
Really?
Yeah,
Shit.
from one person.
Jeez, that would have been nice to pay for some fucking meds for like for my recovery.
Yeah, you gotta start streaming. Do you stream?
Yeah, I stream. I didn't
You
never
gotta,
stream any Dark Souls though. Maybe I'll do.
you gotta hire some big titty bitches to get behind you. They'll donate
'Cause I
for
can
the.
think of some streamers that like their wives sit around, oh, go to your video games. Meanwhile, she use.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Well, good night, bud.
Later, everybody.
Later.
See, I'm a wizard. I don't play Dark Souls.
T2 would not be able to cope with the difficulty.
I think I tried the first
Or
one or something.
if
I
it was
couldn't really
garbage.
get into it.
Did you get anywhere though?
I didn't get to a boss. I don't think.
The problem is it's like a roguelike almost, and it doesn't really tell you how to do anything. It's very much like throws you into a world. Figure it out. Ha! So a lot of people do end up quitting it, which is they ended up making it more like a tutorial area in 2 and 3. You know what the fuck, and like a pointer and telling you like this is where you're supposed to be going. But I feel like the first one, it felt like vanilla. Wow,
What the item is.
like very new. It took a lot of time to like master, figure out and very open-ended. Like there was no quest guide or no quest helper telling you how to do anything, so I had to just talk to random NPCs and figure it out. And no other game in the last like 10 years has actually made me have to use my brain, so that was nice. Everything is like, especially in like retail WoW, spoon-fed content, no difficulty whatsoever. You could be drunk or baked out of your mind, and you could still manage to like come out of your stupor and be like, "Oh, how did I get here? Why am I wearing that?"
Retired or quit or something today. I saw.
Yeah, the co-founder's gone, and the original CEO quit. Yep. It's like a bad time. Like, I'm playing retail right now, but I'm just farming gold. A lot of my welfare money's been going towards marijuana. Since it's been legalized in Canada.
Does that help with autism at all, or just for fun?
Oh no, it makes it a lot worse. But I like the feeling of being fucking baked. But it does, I feel like it undoes a lot of the therapy that I've taken, so like, I don't want to be too baked around certain people, whereas I'm gonna act like.
Well, then it'll be good for helping you fake it, if that's what you're doing.
That could be good. Yes.
Dumb that the government's paying to make you more retarded.
Yeah, if I had to go to some place where they're my grandfather, and let's say they you could just go there faked out of my goddamn mind. You'd be a little, just act it up. Wouldn't even try. I'd be like, try to be a normal person, slip and fall, and like. Sorry, I'm a little bit retarded. I can't type or write. That work. It work. No, I wouldn't want to have anybody film. I don't know. You want to have some self-worth to some degree. It's everything kind of
Meh.
eh.
Self-worth, schmelf-worth.
Like, I feel like Asmongold in a sense, where instead of video games, like ninja looting items in real life from people, you know. Surprise, this is mine now.
I don't think it's that true.
It was like in school too. Like, the problem was like, if you're, I know we don't stick people in asylums or anything anymore, but I feel like maybe we, because there's people that were put in, maybe I would be stuck in an asylum or something, I don't know exactly, but a lot of times they'll do the integration program without let the kids, like,
Oh, dude, force
Down
strength,
syndrome or
force
whatever it
stam,
might be.
leather belt.
They'll be sitting in a class with the other kids, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, 85% of the time, it was bad. People getting desks thrown at them and shit. I don't know about like how you guys, especially in the bigger cities, but, at least around here, where it seems to be the land of milk and honey for the like autism.
Oh, dude, force
Got a
strength,
lot of
force
input.
stam, leather belt.
Yeah, you live
My
like
whole-
there's a lot of fucking retarded people for some reason.
Yeah. Where there's been a lot of times where I've seen people out two objects beating the shit out of each other over the stupidest thing. Like, even more stupid that normal stupid people would get mad about. You know, like, it's just ridiculous. And these people, like, most of them, they're all, they're not handicapped in any other way other than mentally, to some degree, right? So a lot of them are like fully grown adults who just like snap in an instance and can just have like a terror attack. Like, I don't have temper tantrums anymore. I had a lot like when I was a kid, yeah. But as an adult, I can keep it together, right? But some of these other low functioning ones, they have like the mind of a 7-year-old. You could breathe in the wrong direction, and then you have like one of them trying to rip your face off like a savage bamboo.
So like you always gotta do whatever they want to because they want to get their way or something.
They don't get their way, they have like they freak out.
Everybody caters to them. They got like 11 hours for some reason.
Yeah.
I used to have a guy in school that was kind of like that. He would always like hit his chest like this, and he would say, "What do? What do?" He's really good at basketball though. He's like in shape thing.
In shape at least, yeah. I just feel like maybe having like the more severe ones kept away from the general populations would be a better idea.
Sort of
'cause
like
I'm just
a camp where they could all concentrate. Something like that.
Well, they'd be like
concentration
able
camp.
Yeah, for the Downings and the other people who are a little bit. Yeah, maybe. Like people say, like we should be so inclusive and whatever.
He's saying it, let me.
I'm not saying the concentration camp. Okay, I'm talking about like specialized camps, like summer camps, but all the time for these individuals. Lots of activities, lots of fun, good wholesome and entertainment, like running around outside and using imagination, maybe some puppet shows, whatever.
Imagination land.
But you haven't seen what I have
How are
seen,
your maps?
what horrors I have witnessed. I'll tell
Gather
you.
round, children. spinning your tail.
Oh man. Okay, so I've had poop thrown on at me, chairs, desks. At one point in time, I'm pretty sure one guy was able to like he put a shoelace like up one of his nostrils and out the other one, and then he started whipping at me with it.
With his
But
head?
that's like individual people, and then we, as the n- autistic normals, or there you had some kids with
Normies.
ADHD or whatever, we would have to like defend ourselves against the. Because a lot of times you'd have they have the mental capacity of like terrible twos, right? So they don't want to listen, and they don't want to be around anybody. So they just have tantrums all the time. And I remember when they first stuck me in like the LAC room, which is the Learning Assistance Center, or how everyone called it, the vegetable garden, where all the vegetables hang out.
Damn. It's bad.
You know, I was stuck in there for at least grade 9 and grade 10 for the time to let you out to go mingle with the population with like lunchtime.
That's
But that
why
was
you
a
have
bad
learning
idea.
disorders. Nobody's
Because
teaching
they-
this shit in the vegetable garden.
Is that you do?
That's why you have learning problems. Like you don't know how to read a clock.
No, T2 taught me how to read
Not
clock.
seeing with the
We
eye.
were
You were in the
doing
vegetable garden when you should have been learning all these things.
You go potty?
What time it says? Can't read that.
Like
we
that
have
when we
we
let
had
you
digital
out.
clocks in those. We don't like, you know, and if anybody was wearing them, they didn't teach us how to read it. I did phonics work until like grade 8.
Look
Grade
it on
5.
phonics. Look it for
I did
me.
almost no work in grade 5 at all. Passed me, no reason. Like my mom said, I was part of a program where it was like no kids left behind or something. But it was like not the same as the U.S. one. But it was like even if the like since the government has determined that I have a disability, then it's like I guess I get a free pass. I was just like they just keep
Glad you
pushing
made
me
it back.
along. Like doesn't matter if I got
Stay
passed any
inquisitive.
tests or if I had good grades. No. But then when I got high school, they're like, hey, you actually have to like listen and pay attention now, and or else you know you're not gonna be able to pass. We're not gonna give you your grade 12. So I ended up bribing my math teacher, like I think it was like $600. It's either 300 or 600, I'm not sure. But he had originally was joking about it. I thought he was serious, so I went to the bank, came back with the money. He didn't refuse it. He just like upped my grade to a passing grade. That was an eventful day. At least I was very happy because I really didn't want to have to repeat grade 12 again. Hated school. I got bullied a lot. Used to have this bully named Donnie would beat me with like a wooden board behind, like in shop class, and the teacher just wouldn't do anything about it.
Ain't care.
Go
You
on.
know. You want me to keep talking? Okay. I don't want to hog the
So
limelight.
you got your revenge on Donnie one day, buried in my back.
Oh yeah. So I was dating his sister at one point. She was playing. She was playing World of Warcraft, and I started dating. And she's actually the reason I play Gnome on Warcraft originally, because we both made gnomes, and she was a priest and I was a warrior, and I still have that character to today. And she was a good girlfriend for the most part, but Donnie was like a psychopath, I guess. I don't know. He got really mad at me for dating her, and ended up like we had to break up because he ended up getting so hostile towards me. Like he always bullied me regardless, but then once I was like at his house in his personal space, he got like really enraged. He eventually went to jail though, so I don't know what happened to him. And I tried to reconnect with her on Facebook, but I didn't get any replies. I think I might have saw her at a grocery store. And, maybe it's just the moment's passed, you know. Most of the other girlfriends I've had have just been like, well, I was like, they're not really girlfriends. They're more like one night stand, friends with benefits kind of things, you know.
When did you start whaling for the first time?
Sailed 17.
I was in grade 11, I think. And there was two girls that were pretty much whales. They always wore the same hoodies. They were like last names. So now I have their like last names burned into my mind. And because I used to whale them all the time, and I had zero charisma when I first started, right? But over time, you know, my
Nobody
charisma
puts their points on the charisma first thing. You gotta wait till you build up your strength first.
Fuck, I didn't have any strength at all. My entire childhood, up to just a few years ago,
Were you
skinny
a
twig
bard
man.
or something?
Anytime I'd take off my shirt, you could see my rib cage and my spine. You know, it was not a good time. I like grew too fast, so I had stretch marks all over my back too.
And then you got all the juice. You got fucking real jacked.
I looked like it's like there's a raid boss in WoW called Withered Jim. People who like hate, and what it looks like is like a. Remember from Burning Crusade? Did you do Al Clodonis at all?
Sounds like a retarded kid with a fucked up back. 'Cause that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'll find you a picture, but it's pretty much looked like someone. If you took like a dead person and then you dehydrated, I kind of look like that.
Emaciated, desiccated, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, I was all the time because I was always throwing up and having diarrhea a lot, and they couldn't figure out why. And then eventually, I went to a naturopath. He sent some like samples down to the states to get tested.
Brother.
And they found it was like it was because of Flygem. Flygem was like, go to the naturopath. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, it's like nothing else left, right? I had several stomach ulcers, and they cauterized those and gave for those. And then I had to do like, I had to take some like powerful probiotics and antibiotics to be able to like kickstart my. And also, a few years later, I ended up doing one of those fecal
DMT.
transplants.
Yep. DMT's what fixed it.
It's kind of it's like a surgery thing. So it puts you up. Everything's been good. I've been able to eat whatever the. Now TP does pro cooking. I think he's dead. I can't. I wish I.
You're not seeing what the item is.
Funny things that used to happen, especially like so with whaling. I remember at school, you know, it's a small town, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have bullies or whatever. We seem to have a lot of. If you screwed up really bad in the main school, they put you in like a side school area. That's not accessible on the inside of the building, it's outside. And they call that alternate school. Whenever I would, and that's why I would meet a lot of these whales. They would be psychologically scarred in some way, or like maybe there was some abuse at home, or maybe they were like into drugs because that's the reason they were there in the first place. You know, they can't deal with a regular school. And I don't know if
I believe in traveling light.
I feel like. It's gonna sound kind of fucked up, but I feel like I was like predatory towards them in a sense because I'm preying on their weakness to essentially train my like my dating strategies, the way I approach women.
Hey,
training,
everyone
like,
learns how to ride a bike with training wheels.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
And these emotionally distressed whales were my training wheels, I guess. Eventually, I advanced into like greener pastures later on.
Learn anything new?
Greener pastures ended up being like cougars, which kind of missed the mark. You know, I went from unattractive whales to older women that are like closer to my mother's age, which was a very big turn off for me. But you know, you have some liquor and things become a good idea, you know.
Sure.
But I did like that a couple times, and then it just didn't feel fulfilling. It kind of felt kind of like a big waste of time. You know, I'd have a better time if I just jerked off or something. And but it was like, you know, memories. It got me out of the house. I got to go meet people. So, you know, yeah, I got stories for it too. So.
Go on.
All right. Let's see how. So we before you played, or maybe you originally played, Arc Age, right? You played that, and you quit it initially, right? And then I kept playing, and I ended up having all sorts of interesting adventures. And I made it a joke. Like, I originally, you could transmog your gear, make gear look like other gear, right? So I dressed my character up to look like a pirate. And my character's name is Lord Bone, because I'm just, like, that's just the abbreviation. But a lot of people in my guild thought it was like a sexual innuendo, right? So I was too thick to really, like, understand that. And so I would just go along with it, and eventually Pirates faction, and one of my friends who at the time was streaming, and I was talking about this same kind of thing, and ended up having like some few people who were watching the stream like message me in game. Some were upset with me, but one of them ended up being a whale, and then like ended up sailing the seas with a whale and doing all sorts of fun stuff. And it was
Like
actually
Moby Dick.
yeah, it was like an internet girlfriend for a while, but then me and my friend did a deep dive because initially I thought, even though she had an okay
Learn
voice,
anything new?
you know, I thought that she might have been an older woman or guy, so I didn't really want to like take it any further. Because so initially she had told us about this other game that she was playing. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean Online, and the she had a bunch of screenshots and her character name, and her character name always seemed to be the same. Can't remember the name, what her name was, but I remember
How are your maps?
some other information. So she had some screenshots on her Facebook, but her Facebook was very like bland. It had no information on it that I could check. I wasn't like add her, like she didn't want to add me on Facebook or something like that. So, or no, she had like a privated profile, so I could only see like very limited stuff. And from what we saw was in the back of one of her screenshots was like a name from a game that we didn't know. So we Googled that and eventually figured out what game it was, and then read that name, and then tracked that name through a few different games, and then eventually found a different Facebook profile that was like of an older woman who had her as a friend. And over time, I figured that it was a girl, but she was like getting catfished. Like, so the original person I was talking to, was a real female. But then somewhere along the line, I got catfished by someone else who somehow managed to, in the game, like, or through chat or like Twitch chat, you know, like took advantage of that. But I managed to get that sorted out. But that was a crazy like rabbit hole. I spent like 2 or 3 days like exploring. And then after that, I told her that there was this older woman catfishing her, like through the game and through Twitch, and to like warn people about it. So we got them like banned from the Twitch chat. It was so weird. Like, I don't understand why this older woman who's like would go to such lengths to catfish someone that they had just met in Twitch chat. Like, because the Twitch chat had been going on for a while, you know. So it created kind of a community, right? But it wasn't going on for years. Somehow this older woman managed to catfish this other by making an account that was like a similar characters and all that stuff. It was so weird. Anyway, so got her out of there, got the other chick. I think I eventually gave her my account to play for a while. And when I got back on it, it had so much more gold, and I'm like, shit, this whale knows how to play the video games. So I ended up getting a bunch of free shit from her. We used to sail. I only had the starter boat initially, and I like was really proud of that in Arcade because I had built it with like no money investment at all. Because initially I used to get around with a rowboat, and that was really slow. So I would do like pack runs, but the fastest way, you know, you do pack runs as an elf was like you go down from you take a boat. I'd get my pack on my back and take the boat like as far as I could, despawn it, walk as far as I could, respawn the boat, go down the rivers all the way to the ocean, and then across the ocean on a rowboat. It was not a very, it was very time consuming. Probably could have been doing something different. Later on, a friend of mine let me use his property, the house there and whatever else. But I grew everything I needed. I think I was supposed to use some seeds on a quest, something else, like through the farming quest lines, but I ended up using all of those materials to make myself a boat with like no money spent. And then I just sailed the seas, and I remember me and her were sailing around. I might have some pictures of us together. She had like another elf.
I wonder if you're gonna play on stream, actually.
She was playing an elf, right? And this is where it gets funny again. So she's talking to me. She doesn't know that through that whole deep dive rabbit hole, I actually did get into some of her private information. I found out that she had been engaged at one point and had just recently broke up with the guy, but seems to have broken up to him during the time I was talking to her. So like, did she, even though she was supposed to be engaged, seem to like break up with this guy because she liked me more? Because she spent like every fucking waking moment with for a while, which seems like, why would, I don't know, it just seemed like weird.
How do you know
so at first
it wasn't like a catfish thing?
No, this was the actual chick, not the catfish. So so I thought, okay, that's weird. But then I found out that she's probably one of these girls that, or people who is like addicted to playing arcades, like
Not seeing what the item is.
essentially cash shop, you know, so RNG and whatever else. Because she asked me for some in-game gold, and eventually she was like asking me for money, like real money, to go send it to her PayPal or something like that. And I was like, what do you need this for? And he's like, oh, I really want to buy this like item from the cash shop, but it's a chest, so it has like a percentage drop rate. And I guess she spent her entire rent or some shit on like cash shop shit. So I'm like, eventually I distanced myself from her, but the ride, as long as it lasted, was pretty funny. And I got a lot of like titty pics and whatever else, but they were just kind of like, it was okay, but it was like discount boobs, you know?
Yeah.
It was like not so good. At one point, I remember she showed me, and I'm like, well, your nipple's kind of weird. And she's like, oh, that's not a nipple. That right there, that's a like a pimple or something. And I was like, oh. And once it became like your mind,
that, holy shit, something's really weird with it.
something I'm like, once my mind clicked to like realization, ugh.
Big pimpin'.
So most of not to put women down in general, because they've already got enough shit to worry about. But as someone else who's looking for whales, probably don't go after ones that have so many issues. Yeah, they might be easier to get into, like into a relationship with, but then you're gonna probably have to deal with like them being crazy and other stuff, or their crazy exes that I had to deal with and other issues. But it was entertaining. Most.
Whale in the 7 seas, that's right.
Yeah, you got some pictures of me there to show T2? Me, Captain Sideburns. Have you seen this boy?
That boy. Oh, those pictures?
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, damn.
Who made that spam?
Like spam made
I did, and then spam was
You did?
like, not on there. Spam
A lot of times I
Sideburns
spend
can't be fucking real. What? I didn't believe it.
pictures.
Fucking the high school graduation picture with your sideburns. That was the last.
No, I thought I looked so cool because all the whales liked it. They would always tell me about. Because out of all the other guys at school, because I was taking that testosterone, I'd have huge mutton chops and shit. And like, it was great. The reason I kept them around is I couldn't really grow much hair, my mustache or like under my chin. But goddamn, did my mutton chops and my fucking sideburns, they wouldn't stop growing. Like, you'd shave them and then like 2 days later they'd be back.
A good shot.
It's like one of those phases where I just said, fuck.
Force stem leather belt.
The whales. There's different kinds of whales too, right? Some of the whales that were like.
That's a good anime for me to watch.
Oh yeah, I was gonna link that.
One Punch, I guess, right?
I've seen that.
Carolyn Tuesday.
Oh, stuff you into.
Fruit basket.
Yeah, I'll send it to you there, mustache. Here you go.
You should watch the full
I
battle.
liked that Rising of the Shield Hero. That was cool.
Yeah, that one's super good. I really enjoyed
I
that one.
watched all the episodes. It was okay.
This
It was
one-
better than a lot of the other garbage.
My favorite is Full Metal Alchemist. It's my favorite anime. And that or Cowboy Bebop.
I like Brotherhood better because it
Oh,
condenses.
Brotherhood's way better. And it has way better art style. It doesn't look like it's made with a light bright.
Yeah.
Like the art style in the fucking regular version is horrendous.
I feel
I was
like the
looking
other
at
one
my
just beats
old
around the bush for
anime
too
list.
long. You feel like pacing's off.
I thought Bob was gonna ask me about that anime, so I was looking at my old list, and I remember Bakimon was on there. That was a really good one. Like guys making manga together.
Is this the brother, the newer one? Cause I watched the first one.
I believe
Yeah, Brotherhood is the better version.
It's a remake basically, but they
Yeah.
condense it to.
It makes more sense, and it ties up more of like the storyline without a lot of like extra nonsense you don't need to know, and it looks better.
I
The
watched
other one
all the
too.
ones up to it. I was like, wait, this is just the story over again? I'm not watching this.
Yeah, but it's better. The other one is just like nonsense. I feel like the original goes on nonsensical, random. And then they had those movies that didn't seem to make any. They had to like use a dragon to get the portal to open. That was weird as fuck. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, that's why you should never make a movie without the the original artist in the guidelines, or else you just fuck it up. Like people don't know what's good.
Oh, dude, force strength, force
So
stem
like,
leather
I feel
belt.
like George R. Martin should have been. But maybe he just didn't care.
I believe in
You're not seeing what the item is.
Yes, sir,
Captain
Cypher.
Ahab.
We got the picture up?
Captain Ahab.
Oh yeah.
Why's
Okay.
it got that white outline? Can you fix?
This is Austin when he was in retarded camp.
Yep, my mummy, you know, made sure that I was good to go.
How are your maps?
Or she didn't shave those sideburns. I looked like a nerd because I kind of had to, because it was like my mother would always like brush my hair like every day. She would like, gotta make sure my baby's all ready to go to school.
Brushing
Good luck
your
with your
hair.
maps.
Makes my lunch and all that stuff. But it was like, I feel like she was a good mother for the most part, but like I feel like everybody, especially with their first kid, has like a bunch of fuck ups, especially if you don't know, unprepared. So I don't really hold it against her. There's other funny stuff, like especially in school to kill time. We used to be on the field playing. We could pretend we're playing Dragon Ball Z or something, like casting Kamehamehas and shit at each other. Then I remember we're trying to like do power up, and then like school teacher comes over. He's like, can't be doing this. It's dangerous. You're gonna like. I fucking hated that woman. She's like, you're such a party pooper. We're outside. Leave us alone. Fuck off. Eventually, we got our revenge against her. Now that was accidental. To be honest, it was really situational.
Kind
So,
of accidentally tried to rip
so-
Kamehameha out by accident. Blasted her.
okay, so you know one of those really big exercising blue balls, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, one of them was outside, so we were casting it around, like doing the Kamehamehas with that. And like, if you could knock your other opponent over, but you were allowed, you had to throw it at the other person. So it was bigger than you, so it was hard to get a hold on, and it was silly fun. But eventually, we had one friend, who was like Matt, and he was quite a bit larger than, taller than everybody. Like he was a little bit fat, but he wasn't like muscly. He was still a kid, right? He grabbed the ball and thought it was. He was pissed at that woman already, and he's like, we were like, why don't you go hit her with your Kamehameha? And he fucking grabs the ball with both arms and charges her with it, and she just like bounces off the ball and like gets KO'd. Fucking wonderful.
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah, he did get in trouble for that. I don't know, a couple days in school suspension or something, and then some other shit he had. But it was hilarious. I got into trouble. I did a bunch of shit, and I only got like 1 day in suspension, something. You know, I had stayed after class, and then I had to walk home or something like that. If I stay in detention, I can't catch the school bus. Well, you'll work that out with your parents. Okay. And I didn't want my parents knowing, so I just like manned up and walked home.